In 2025, there is a new path to the World Tour, the Pro Velo Super League.
Here we go.
The six-race league that started in Adelaide has brought us magical cycling performances of the highest calibre. Fierce rivalries have ignited and new warriors of the road have emerged, introducing themselves to the cycling world. The league is now at the halfway point as Sydney hosts round 4 for the next crucial phase of the PSL. In the men's competition, Team Brennan has the upper hand. Jack Ward has stated his claim as Australia's most exciting young climber.
Everyone's on their knees, Jack. Come on, mate.
The Victorian teenager made a big statement with a blistering solo win on the steep gradients of Tasmania's Golden Valley. Hot on his heels is Zach Marriage of the Butterfield Zip Track Racing Team. The South Australian will be primed to close the gap in Sydney.
Wow, this is extraordinary.
In the women's competition, the Prady cycling team holds all the aces.
That team.
Sophie Ma has been a revelation, showing the versatility and power that is required to win a 3-day stage race. Teammate Talia Appleton relinquished the lead to her Prady's pal in Tasmania. Expect fireworks on the roads of Sydney because the stakes, they're high. For the league winners, the prize is a big one. In the men's under-23, the winner will get a 3-month stagiaire stint later this season with Jayco Alula. In the women's, the winner of the under-23s gets a 12-month contract with the Live Alula development squad. This is a career golden ticket, and it's up for grabs. Don't know about you, Tills, but I'm ready for racing to return to the Harbour City for the Harbour City Grand Prix. 3 races down, 3 to go in the first ever edition of the Pro Velo Super League. And the anticipation for each round gets bigger every single week.
Yeah, it feels heavier, Matt. Each round, it feels like the weight of the round is, it's a lot more important, I think. And it's still so much to play for. And I think even with all the changes that we're going to break down with the Sydney round, it's still so much opportunity. Even I've been speaking to Talia Appleton and obviously Sophie Mars in the box seat there, and it possibly suits her. But there's still so much opportunity for all of these riders, despite there not being the climbs that they expected in Sydney. I think, hey, if you want to go to Europe, well, Belgium, this is what it's like. And so, the courses aren't too dissimilar. Yes, there's no cobbles, but certainly it really reminds me of those sort of chemises that we get in Belgium. So I'm really, really excited for this weekend for the racing to return to Sydney.
Yeah, it's been a long time since there's been national level racing in the Harbour City. And you've mentioned the courses. We're going to talk to Matt Wilson, the creator of the Pro Velo Super League, a little later on about some changes to the course at the Harbour City Grand Prix. Doesn't change what's up for stake, and it doesn't change how intense the racing is going to be. Angus is going to take the pulse once again, the pulse of the PSL. We're going to close the show with that. What we love about this, though, the whole league, is unveiling the next generation of talent. And it's not just the winners. And you've had your eye on Lauren Bates for the last 12 months and watching her develop. We're going to talk to her soon as well, Tills.
Yeah, Lauren obviously took that really exciting win down in Tassie. And I think she's a really exciting prospect for the Australian cycling. She's extremely young. I'm really keen to break down with her decisions around wanting to focus more on the road and letting go of some of the track, even though she's extremely talented with that, and maybe who her idols are or who she's looking at, which pathways does she want to take. And really big news with her as well is she was just announced with Meridian Blue Cycling, powered by 99 Bikes. So she's going to be joining their team for the Sydney round, a round that really suits her strengths. So that's really exciting to see, bolstering that team again, also giving her that support, which she didn't have for Tassie.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting her perspective on riding the Tour of Tassie solo and now heading into the Harbour City GP with a team around her. Shortly, we're going to have a chat to Ollie Sims. Ollie caught my attention in the Tour of Tassie. He was third on the final stage, the Queen stage. He finished 4th overall. He's still only 18 years of age. We're going to talk to him soon. He's currently in Croatia at the moment, where he's part of the Poggi team, Gustav Ljubljana, which is a team that's had a few Aussies on there in the past already, including Ben Hill. And it's a team that is partly funded by Tadej Pogačar. But before we get to him, till let's remind ourselves of where the standings are at the moment, halfway through the Pro Velo Super League. In the Jayco leaderboard for the under-23s, it is Jack Ward ahead of Zach Marriage, and then it's Hamish McKenzie. Hamish McKenzie is out of it now because he's gone across to Europe, and so too Ollie Sims. But they're two young riders that will follow throughout the rest of the season. The big battle is between Jack Ward and Zach Marriage Tills.
Yeah, and of course, there's off to play for there because, Jack Ward is not going to Grafton Inverell next week either because he's going to be taking on the XCO Mountain Bike Australian Championship. So there's a really big opportunity there for Zach to try to close the gap and then potentially leapfrog Jack, just like he missed out on some of the Tour Down Under. When he was racing the Tour Down Under, he missed out on the SA Kick-It round. So, yeah, it's still really exciting for him.
Yeah, so the under-23 category is the major focus because that's where they have the opportunity in the men's for the stagiaire stint. In the women, it's a chance for a 12-month contract next year with the Liverloola Jayco development team. And in the under-23s for the women, it is the Praties team that are dominating with Sophie Marr, Talia Appleton, and Sophia Salmons occupying the top 3 spots. And this is going to be really difficult for Andrew Christie Johnson to manage, having 3 riders who potentially can take home that big prize.
Yeah, I think with ACJ though, he's such a good guy to have at that helm. He's been a part of that Praties team for 20 years, and also that he has already put so many incredible Australian talents into the World Tour. So I think even for these riders, even if that one rider doesn't get the contract but potentially deserves it, we know that Jerry Ryan's watching. So many of the teams are watching, and ACJ is a great person to have in your corner.
Well, one rider who is fighting for a contract, he was very impressive at the Tour of Tasmania. As I mentioned before, he was 3rd on the final stage, the Queen stage, caught my attention riding the Cobra 9 Lee Surveyors colours, and he was 4th in the general classification. Ollie Sims, who joins us from Croatia, and you've managed to sort out the camera. I like the angle now, Ollie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I don't know how long the camera angle is going to last, but yeah.
We'll go with it for as long as we can. Let's talk about the Tour of Tassie first, because you are from Devonport. It must have been a pretty rewarding race for you, because this is your first year out of the juniors, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, first year out of the juniors, so yeah, it's good.
And home ground advantage, Devonport, you know the crit circuit well.
Yeah, I actually live on the street of one of the streets around the crit circuit, so it's pretty cool to race that crit, knowing that home's less than a couple k's away. Yeah.
And you're part of the Cobra 9 team for 2 races, SA Kick-It and then the Spirit of Tasmania Tour of Tassie. What was your overall impression of the Pro Velo Super League?
Yeah, I liked the new format of the racing. I thought that it was pretty cool with the Wollonga time trial, and then the Vic Park crit was pretty cool, and then also the Tour of Tassie. You kind of got that action sort of packed in across the 3 days instead of like the tour being extended.
Ollie, so talk us through, one, where you are, the team you're with, and how is it to be 18 years old over there living in Europe?
Yeah, so currently I'm in Croatia before the season starts. Starting the season next week with my first race in the Istrian Tour. But yeah, I'm riding for Poggy team Gusto Ljubljana this year. And I guess it's pretty cool to be able to get the opportunity to come over to Europe at this age on a team like this. Like just arriving to the team headquarters yesterday, it was pretty surreal to walk upstairs and see all of Pogacar's bikes and Tour de France and Giro winning bikes and world champ jerseys and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's pretty special.
It's a pretty cool team to be on. How do you get there though? Because the Pro Velo Super League, we're talking about it as the road to the World Tour. Now you're on your own journey with no doubt with ambitions to get to the World Tour. I know you raced in Italy last year. You had a couple of solid wins there. How did you go about getting to Italy and now getting onto Poggy's team?
Yeah, getting to Italy, I guess, was pretty lucky. Simon Clark reached out to me, and he's kind of in touch with the Italian guy over there who runs the junior team, and he asked if I'd be interested. So I said, lucky, obviously, of course. And so I spent 6 months racing over there, and yeah, I guess that opened the opportunity to this year.
And then how did you get onto Poggy's team? What was the process? Because, I can't imagine that they're having to go searching for riders. I imagine that there's more likely there's riders that are going searching for them.
Yeah, I just applied to the team, and then they got back to me saying, asking if I wanted to, if I was free for a call, and then basically set up a call and went from there, I guess.
How'd your camera go on that call with the team?
Yeah, better than this one, I'm not going to lie.
It's all good. We're interested in your story. It's fascinating. One of the things that I love as a commentator is finding that rider that hasn't won the race, that's a young rider that is coming through and making a big impression. Now, you've just arrived in Croatia and you turn up at the hotel and you've got the development squad for Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, the development squad for UAE, the development squad for Visma Lisa Bike. I think Bardiani is there as well. They're going to be riding the Giro d'Italia later on this year. What's the 18-year-old from Devonport think when he sees all those team buses in the hotel car park?
Yeah, at first yesterday, I mean, it's a bit, I don't know, it could be a bit intimidating, but at the same time, everyone's there to do the same thing as you. We're just here to race our bikes. So, I guess, that's the goal, I guess, to end up on one of those teams. So,
having a few problems with the connection now as well. Before we let you go, do you know roughly what your schedule is for the rest of the year? And I would imagine that you're trying to make this train team to ride the Tour at Avenir at the end of the season.
Yeah. So after this, I think I spend the next 2 weeks in Croatia. Then after that, move into the Slovenian one-day races before doing some of the bigger races later on in the year, like Tour of Slovenia and those sorts of races. But yeah, definitely Tour of Avenir would definitely be that'd be a great opportunity to ride in, and I'd be I think that'd suit me pretty well. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, sorry about the.
It's all good, mate.
Yeah,
we know it's an early start for you over there. You've only just arrived in Europe. We're going to be following you throughout the season, and we're wishing you all the best. Don't worry about the technology. Your legs are taking care of business. Just let them keep doing the talking. Good luck in Croatia, and good luck for the season. And thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Ollie.
Another freeze there. Now, this is what I do love about the Pro Velo Super League, and one of the things I've loved throughout my time in commentating, Tills, is trying to find that young rider that nobody's necessarily watching, because as a junior he finished 5th in the national championships as a mountain biker in the juniors. He finished 5th or 7th in the road race in the juniors at the national championships. Didn't get selected for the team to go to the junior world championships. But then last year he went on his own to Italy. He won a couple of races in Italy, like national cup level races. He's sent an email off to the UCI applying for different teams that are there. He gets onto the team that Tadej Pogačar started his career with, and he's still just 18 years of age, and he's on the rise. He could be one of those stories that didn't shine in the under-19s, but shines by the time he's in his mid-20s.
Yeah, definitely. He's definitely a better bike rider than his cameraman, I can guarantee. But he, I think one of the little gems there I really loved as well, Matt, was just, talking about Simon Clark there and Simon Clark. And, we saw the same with Damien Housen. That was something Fergus Browning really talked about. I'm so impressed with some of these older riders that turn around and try to pull others up, particularly someone as young as Ollie. So I think that was, wonderful to hear. And that's all these guys and women need, is just that opportunity or that door open, which is what the the Pro Velo Super League is it's trying to meet that talent with opportunity. And that's the hardest thing coming from Australia is there are so many talented riders and so many that we lost who never got that opportunity. And I think it's not just even the riders that are going to win this league. With the coverage that we've got going, it's just giving us so much more understanding of who these riders are. They can cut this stuff up, Matt, and send it to a director and say, hey, like, look at my attack, look at how well I climbed, and here's some footage of me racing.
Yeah. And he was top 10 in the Tour of Bright last year as well. And on the stage to Mount Buffalo, he finished, just in front of Luke Plapp, although, Luke wasn't at 100%, but a Luke Plapp at 90% is a world-class cyclist. And in terms of the Pro Velo Super League, hats off to Nathan White and the crew at Cobra 9 Lee Surveyors for having Ollie Sims on their team, knowing that he was only going to be on there for 3 races. In fact, I don't think he did the Warrnambool. He just did SA Kickit and he did the Tour of Tassie. So that was a good move by that team.
Yeah, and I think also would have given him just so much insight, I think, to what the Pro Velo Super League is about. To get him back, he knows that if he comes back from Europe, this is going to be another option for him for next year. But also such a great primer, I think, for him heading to Europe. It's just so, Matt, your eyes are just wide open trying to land. And as you said, you're seeing Red Bull buses and you're still just so jet lagged, and then you're on the bike and you're on your way sort of thing. So yeah, massive good luck to him.
Yeah, watch this space with Ollie Sims. Another one where we are on a very heavy watch is with Lauren Bates. She was so impressive in the Tour of Tassie, riding in the Canberra colours, winning the final stage, finishing 3rd overall. And as you mentioned earlier, another big recruit for the Meridian Blue team, Lauren Bates. Welcome to the show. What a great ride it was for you in Tassie.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Now, when did you and Sophie Ma start climbing so well? Like I've always known you've been quick, you've been okay climbers, but that was breakthrough performance, I thought, by both of you in Tasmania.
Yeah, I was feeling pretty good up the climb. I saved my bickies pretty early on in the race and let the teams kind of pull back the brake. So, just saving up and waiting to see if I could get up that climb.
Did you use it as an advantage, not having any teammates? Did you think that actually, in some respects, played into your hands?
Definitely. In a way, definitely. I think I could use that scenario to be like, no, you guys have 5 riders to spend your bickies. Like, I can sit in and save. So in that ways, it definitely did help me. But then again, I am only one person and they've got 6 or 7 riders. So that's hard to compete against.
Lauren, you have the opportunity to race with the ARA Australian team during the Tour Down Under in the summer. How was that experience, and how did it compare to your racing in Tassie with the Pro Velo League?
Oh, Tour Down Under was absolutely incredible. Like, I don't think I've ever raced at that kind of caliber before, and such a good learning opportunity for both me and all of the other riders, and racing in a big team scenario like that. And yeah, I didn't have the team in Tour of Tas at all, but I could definitely have more insight into some of the tactics that some of the teams might have had during those racing stages.
What did your experience at the TDU do to your ambitions on the road?
I was just going in there for learning. I didn't really have any like main goals other than just going in there, learning about the bunch, how to move through the bunch, that kind of thing. I just, didn't have many goals about trying to do well, just try and get opportunities for the Australian team and help out the other girls.
But how about with the impact on your self-belief and your future ambitions? Like, okay, actually, because I got to commentate on it. You did really well. Like, you belonged. So it must have given you confidence for the future.
Yeah, I definitely think I gained confidence moving through the bunch and stuff. Like, I haven't experienced many bunches like that before, and getting to do that over those couple of days, and I really learned a lot, and I did gain a lot of self-confidence.
Lauren, it sort of seemed from last year you did pivot a little bit from being such a talented track rider to wanting to focus more on the road. How was your stint in Europe in the road, and talk us through that decision? And I think I recently read an article about you as well on, that desperation to try to make it into the world tour. Just talk us through that change and I guess what's driving you at the moment.
Oh, look, I think like at the end of 2023, beginning of 2024, I kind of just really fell in love with the road. And all throughout that season, I did track nats last year, and then I kind of made the decision at track nats, like, I'm enjoying the track, and there's always going to be a part of me that loves the track, and I'll definitely go back. But at the moment, I'm just really loving the road, and I love all the racing, and I'm just learning so much, and that opportunity to be able to learn and do that stuff has just been incredible.
You had a pretty good campaign last year at the Junior World Championships. A top 10 finish in the time trial. You were 6th from memory.
Yeah.
How do you classify yourself as a rider?
A bit of a puncher, maybe. I'm not sure. Like I can do a bit of everything. Like I really love time trialing, and I really look up to Grace Brown in that aspect. Like, it was so cool having her there, seeing her campaign and doing that myself as well. The time trial was a big goal of mine. And I had RSV 3 weeks before the World Championship, so that kind of set me back a little bit. But I was very stoked to come away with the top 10. So, yeah.
Lauren, is there a certain team you look to, or what the dream, I guess, on that next step? And you remind me a little bit of, like, sort of, did you see Felicity Heffernan? You know, she was 18, 19, from Tassie, made that jump pretty much straight out of juniors into Little Trek. Is that someone that you look to and you want to follow that similar path, or you're looking for a Conti team? What's the dream next step?
Next step, probably, Conti team or development team. I'm not really looking to jump straight into the World Tour. I think it's a massive jump. But Conti team, development team, just to get the learning and the experience in the bunches, and then work my way up slowly would be, that'd be absolutely unreal.
How about the more immediate future with teams? New team for you, Meridian Blue.
Yeah.
How did it come about? And it's going to be quite a different experience for you, the final 3 rounds.
Yeah, it kind of came about, like, during Tour of Tas. Like, I'm an individual rider, and as you know, like, it's not inexpensive to do this, and traveling around, they kind of put out that they had, like, a rider or they had an opportunity there for me, and I just took it, grabbed it with both hands. I was like, yep, I want to do racing. And I was never planning to do all of the Pro Velo, just because I was focusing more on my European season this year. But I love domestic racing. It's so fun. Tour of Tas was really fun, and just take it with both hands.
Well, you've got excellent guidance in that team, I think, with Taryn, Heather, and Kate Perry. So please soak up as much as you can there. What's your thoughts on the 3 stages in the Sydney Harbour GP and the next round?
I'm excited. I think, like, the course doesn't suit me specifically, but we have a lot of, like, cards to play in the team that we have, and I think we can give it a really red hot crack to try and get up there and be up there.
Well, congratulations on what you've already achieved for the very early part of the season. We're going to be watching the space super close and looking forward to the Harbour City GP, and then
yes,
what comes next after that when you go over to Europe. Good luck for the rest of the year.
Thanks, guys.
Another one, like last year, Tills, in the juniors, in the under-19s, she rode the Worlds, as we mentioned there, 6 in the time trial. And as you spoke about, track, road, juggling them both.
Yeah.
And we've seen it plenty of times in the past, having both disciplines, whether it be track and road or mountain bike and road or whatever it may be, it serves you really well long term.
Oh, the track has held so many riders in such good stead to take on the pro races on the road. I think it was a really good decision for her to maybe lean into what she's enjoying at this stage. But Matt, what I think I was most excited to hear is that she is wanting to go into a Conti team, or just wanting to take that next small step. It's going to be a big step either way, any Aussie trying to get to Europe, but not looking at the World Tour going, I can get there straight away, because this next step she takes is honestly the most important. It's the foundation. And when people take it too big a step at times, it becomes a bit crumbly, that foundation.
Yeah.
I think I'm always reminded by Ruby Roseman Gannon. She could have taken the step straight into Liverlula Jayco, but they actually held her back. She made the decision to stay at home for one more year, and she just entered the world tour with so much more confidence. And she was 1 year older, stronger, and a great rider. And it's held her 6 last year in the world champs. And so, yeah, I think she's a really great example for young riders to look up to, is that it's okay. And like, Bates is only 18. Like, you know, hurry slowly would be my my advice to her.
Love that phrase, hurry slowly. And it's a really mature thing to do, because the logical option is, okay, I want to make the world tour. I'll take the first one that I can get. I listened to an interview recently with Jussi Hallmann, a German rider who spent 4 years with Movistar. He's now in his second season with Alpecin-Deceuninck. And he was now, with hindsight, says if he could have waited 1 more year before joining Movistar and had another year in the under-23s, he thinks he'd be better served for it. Because going into the World Tour too soon, he lost the knack of having the desire to win, because he's straight away into a working role. So it was a case of just become a worker straight away, and lost that knack of racing, had to re-find it again a couple of years on.
Yeah, and I think we know that, like, just those slightly older, like, to have that confidence, you want to be the big kid in the yard, and so, you know, you don't want to be getting kicked around, particularly because it can be so brutal. But it only takes one race for it to not go your way, and it's a challenge. You can't just go home straight away. So excited, really thrilled that she's joining Meridian Blue, and I can't wait to see how they're going to light up this weekend.
Well, it's going to be a big weekend of racing. So we've got Angus Calder with us, who's on the ground at each of the rounds for the Pro Velo Super League. Angus, it's your time to take the pulse of the PSL.
Yeah, I am so pumped for the Sydney round. I've been looking forward to this one pretty much since it was announced last year. I'm from Sydney. I grew up here, I still live here. And it feels like every bike race, I'm always traveling. No one ever comes to Sydney. So I'm always going elsewhere. To have everyone actually coming to Sydney once feels amazing. And so I'm really excited.
Well, imagine how they all felt in Perth when they had the Nationals over there this year.
Oh, well,
finally.
Exactly. I mean, that's like the same thing, but blown up to a whole new level. So great to see it get over there. And yeah, really looking forward to this weekend.
Okay, what's going to happen?
Well, we've obviously lost, I don't know if we've discussed it yet, but we've lost a couple of stages. We've lost a time trial and we've lost the Akuna Bay road stage. We've had a good replacement in there. I think what we're going to see is a lot of opportunities for the sprinters. We've got 3 sort of flatter circuit race style events. So I think there'll be lots of opportunities there. I hope we're going to see some aggression, make those sprinting teams really work for it. I hope we don't just sort of cruise around and let the sprinters duke it out. But on the men's side of things, I think Keisha coming in here as the number 1 strongest team. Brennan, they're probably, you know, their main rivals. Brennan have come in absolutely stacked for every event so far this year. But I think it's sort of switching a little bit for here, just because of how many sprint options they have. And you can see Kurt Ether there. He's winning the first stage of the Tour of Tasmania. He comes in alongside John Carter and Cam Scott. So that's sort of 3 potential like sprint winners on a single team. They've also got good lead-outs as well. Tarly Lane Welsh will be here. Will Heffernan's here. So I think they have, number 1, sprinters who can win. Also a bit of that sort of lead-out capability, or people who could win from a break. So really looking forward to that. And then there's also Craig Wiggins, as I've seen on the star list. He stepped over into the Cycling Development Foundation. So he's going to be into new colours. He's been sort of working his way back into form. Very quick sprinter. Really looking forward to that.
I can't wait to see him come back, because I got to see him when he was in the under-19s and so on. And he had 2 younger sisters that were good cyclists as well, but I haven't seen their name on start list or result sheet for a while. The part of the deal that he used to have with his sisters is that they would drive 3 hours to go to the velodrome in Perth to race midweek, and he would take care of all their bike equipment. They'd convert road bikes into track bikes, and he'd do all the mechanical work if they cleaned up his room. So it was kind of, that was his deal. I think the sisters won the deal, because the room might have taken a half an hour to clean up. The bike work that he was doing was an hour and a half or so, but a great relationship between him and his sisters, and I hope he gets a big result. I really do.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, knowing what I know about Craig, he would have been very happy to do that. I think he's very at home in the workshop, tinkering with bikes. So I'm sure he was pretty comfortable with that deal. But really great to see him back. Really great to see him coming over to Sydney as well with the Cycling Development Foundation. I'm also excited to see Ollie Jurovic from the ARA Skip Capital team in the under-19s. I think he's very quick, and he's shown a bit of that speed in some of the events we've seen from him so far. But he's essentially going to get potentially 3 looks at the finish here. So he might have that ability to sort of learn as those stages go on and potentially refine a few things with his ARA teammates. And they've got, obviously, some of the best under-19s here. They're not too far off what you would expect to see in the under-23s. So I don't think it's out of the question to see him right up there in the mix as well.
It'd be big, wouldn't it, Tills, if an under-19 picked up one of the stages?
Oh, and they look like it as well. They're definitely not afraid. So they're trying to take the bull, that's for sure. But yeah, Angus, that sounds like a terrifying team, that caged body wrap team. And I think what we saw in the crit that happened in Launceston was that how thrilled they were to beat Team Brennan. And there was that commentary around finally we've gotten there. And so I think they'd be really keen to see that pendulum swing back to the longest standing team now in the Pro Velo League, but in domestic racing, I think, in Australia.
Yeah, 100%. And it's a massive confidence boost. I think they've now proven that they can do it. They're coming back onto home turf. A lot of the riders here are from Sydney or have spent a lot of time growing up here. So I think they'll have that extra motivation. Really looking forward to them, hopefully sort of put it into gear and hopefully things click into place for them. And then actually just to wrap up on the men's very quickly as well before we get into the women's race, I actually think this will be quite a critical round for the league standings overall. Obviously, Jack Ward, he's got a pretty handy lead over Zach Marriage. You were mentioning earlier, Tills, he's going to miss the Grafton Twin Varel for his mountain bike aspirations. But there are a lot of bonus seconds on offer. Potentially a sprinter might take out the GC if they end up with 3 bunch sprints. And I sort of start thinking, where would Zach Marriage and where would Jack Ward fit into that GC picture? It might be an option if someone's, a little bit more savvy with the finish line sprints or those bunch sprints to pick up a few points, finish a bit higher up in the GC. Bunch sprints usually end up with people closer together. So you might end up with essentially more padding in between the two of them, meaning that the gap would be bigger. So there's an opportunity here for Zach Marriage, I think, if he can really put it together, finish right up the front in those bunch sprints, which he did exceptionally well at Tassie. So definitely not out of the question, I think.
Tills, his team is going to have to step up. Zach Marriage, Butterfield, Track Racing are going to have to step up because it's been orange everywhere. Jack Ward is a slower sprinter than Zach Marriage, but Jack Ward got the time bonuses in the Crit and Devonport because of his team.
Matt, I was just falling over you to say the same thing. I think what we saw in Tassie was that Zach had his head on a swivel. He was just trying to be in everything, trying to almost fend for himself is the feeling that I got. At times it feels like Zach's a solo rider where you don't even see Jack at all. And then suddenly the Moses parts the seas and he's just landed there straight on the finish line with his team. So 100%, I think they'll really need to step up, Butterfields, or Zach will need to look at other teams and potentially see how he can maybe utilize other teams and just get dropped off to that other team.
Yeah, it's going to be super tight. And let's not forget that Zach Marriage, his track background is impressive. He's the current Australian Madison champion. So what about the women's race?
Yeah, women's race, I'm really looking forward to this one. Again, I've sort of mentioned that we might see a few bunch sprints or a few opportunities for the sprinters here. And we've got a really strong sprinting competition happening with the women. So in my mind, there are 3 who have sort of emerged as the top. You've got Keely Bennett up there, Sophie Ma, and then also Odette Lynch, who's missed the tour of Tassie. She's coming back here for the Harbour City GP. And each of them are coming in with really strong teams. We've seen how strong the Praddy's team have been. Butterfields, they've really started to dial that lead out in as the season's gone on. And as you can see, Odette winning here. I remember doing my analysis of this stage and speaking to Odette post her win here. They were talking how much they'd learned from the previous stages coming into this one. So really looking forward to them. Again, similar to Ollie Jurovic, they might have that opportunity to sort of refine as the stages go on. And then, not much needs to be said about Sophie Ma at this point in the season. She's obviously incredibly fast, very capable, very versatile, and her team is incredibly strong. So I think we're going to see some very exciting sprinting, I hope, in the women's race. I'm really looking forward to it.
I think that, there's still what I'd love to see as well, Angus, is opportunity, really taking opportunity. Like I think people forget how many breakaways there are in crits. And as we open the show with, it reminds me a little bit of the European racing in the amount of chemises that we do over there. And so that rarely finishes in a bunch sprint. Usually it can be split to pieces. And some of the motorway, the motorsport area that they're racing as well on one of the stages, that can be extremely windy. We are expecting some wild weather on the East Coast. And so trying to make the most of that, and I think what is the race dynamics going to be between Praties, but then also the sprinters who are going for the overall. And I love a bit of that, like, who is the top sprinter? Let's find out. Like, who's sort of the top dog here, and who is the fastest? Who's going to take those rights, really?
I think this is the perfect round to settle that score, right? You've got 3 stages, so many opportunities. We should hopefully have a pretty clear idea of who is the fastest sprinter, or maybe even better, you get a win for each of them, and we still have no idea. So there's more discussion to go into it. But I completely agree on the point around, making it hard, throwing in those attacks, really trying to split the race up. I think we'll have a lot of opportunity for that. Praties incredibly strong. Meridian Blue with their new signing, Lauren Bates, very strong there. So there are a lot of riders I can see on each of those teams who could really shake up the race. They'll be looking for a breakaway. They've also got options in a sprint, and I'd really like to see them using that depth, hopefully to give us some very exciting racing.
I think for the Praties team, things get more complicated because Talia Appleton would have been coming into this league as the one who made the decision not to ride the Tour Down Under, and all systems go to try and win the Pro Velo Super League. And now she's in a position where there have been some course changes to the Harbour City Grand Prix. It suits Sophie Ma more. She's the leader. She's won Tassie. So Talia, it's time to be the lead-out rider. It's going to be a difficult one for them to manage internally.
Yeah, completely agree. And, Talia, she showed how well she can slot into that team role at the Tour of Tassie. It showed incredible maturity, in my opinion. She's obviously got the talent. We've seen that throughout this. But there is also the opportunity. Praties can't have Sophie Ma in every single breakaway. And if we see a very aggressive, few races across the weekend, they'll have to have Talia there covering moves. They'll have, the rest of the team, Sophia Salmons as well, I expect, will be right up there covering those moves. And, there's a definitely a knack to getting in the breakaway or having it stick, a bit of extra legs. But sometimes it can just be pure luck. You happen to be in the right move at the right place, right time, and the move you're in just blows out. And let's say Talia's in that move. The gap blows out. She ends up way up on GC. That sort of brings the gap down in the standings there. And there are 3 stages. Anything can happen across 3 stages. So I think, probably plan A might be Sophie Ma, but look, you never know. Anything could happen, especially I've had a look at the forecast. It looks like we might be in for a bit of a damp couple of days. If we do end up with that, it really throws a spanner in the works for trying to control a race perfectly like that.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, damp, we think of everybody up in Queensland, which is where Matt Wilson and Aaron Flanagan are, who are the creators of the Pro Velo Super League. We were going to have a chat with Matt about some of the changes for the Harbour City Grand Prix, but he's got a bit going on at the moment up in Queensland and jetting down to Sydney to organise this race. Changes happen. It's the first edition of the Pro Velo Super League. Will it change the final outcome? It's the same for everybody. That's the most important thing. And for the first time in a long time, we've got national level racing on in Sydney.
Yeah, and it's so exciting to have it come back. Sorry, Till's jumping in before you there.
No.
But I really hope as well, as they're going through this first iteration of the Pro Velo Super League, I'm sure they're learning plenty about, running the league, running the events. And I'd really like to see next year if we can bring that Akuna Bay stage in. That was the one I'm particularly excited about, the possibility of having in the future. So yeah, really, really looking forward to next year's event already before we've even had the first Sydney round.
Yeah, and I think better than anyone, Angus, trying to organise a bike race in Sydney has become near impossible, I think. So, I think they've done such a brilliant job, but also just in the whole league, I think it's well beyond their what they expected as well. So, I think, thinking of those in Queensland at the moment, because there's actually quite a few riders that won't be able to get down for this event as well. So it's constantly changing, which I think even in the highest level at the ASO, Matt, it is constantly changing. There is no constant in cycling.
Yeah. Oh, the famous stage with Egan Bernal in 2019 in the Tour where the stage got cancelled to Tin because there was a landslide. Vaughan McPhilly, no doubt you'll be watching the coverage as well. Okay, before we let you go, Angus, can we put you on the spot? A winner in the men's race, a winner in the women's race?
Winner in the men's race overall.
Mm.
I'm probably his number one fan in the Pro Velo Super League. I'm going to pick Cam Scott. I think he's going to have a few really good looks at it, and I think he's got the experience. So I'll pick him for GC win. For the women's, it's really hard. Again, I'm going to go down the sprinting path, and it's so hard to pick out of those three there. But I think she's got an incredibly strong team. I think they'll really back her. I'm going to pick Keely Bennett.
Nice. Excellent. All right. Well, you've taken the pulse on the Pro Velo Super League pretty accurately so far since you've joined us. Looking forward to seeing your coverage on the ground on the weekend in Sydney. Thanks, Angus.
Looking forward to it. Thanks.
Thanks, mate.
I like the idea of how tight this is going to be and that battle amongst the sprinters and that Cage team, that lineup. I love that we're going to see Team Brennan, who have dominated from a team perspective so far. They're going to be really challenged. And on paper, the two teams are pretty equal.
Yeah, and this sort of does feel a little bit more like a hometown, similar to SA Kick It as it was for Team Brennan. This is a bit of a hometown for Cage. So that comes with it pressure, but also really good pressure. Their sponsor, Cage, is based there as well. And so there'll be a lot of eyes on this team and I think a lot of excitement. Same in the women's then, Matt. I think there's been this whole who is the best sprinter. We actually don't know in the women's at the moment. It's really to and fro, and so we can really come out of this series, of this round, I should say, as who is the best female sprinter.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Angus on Keely Bennett. I think she's going to be tough to beat. She was pretty good in Tasmania. Didn't quite cope with the climb, but that's no major surprise. Speaking of climbing, you've ditched me on the weekend. You're not going to be joining me in commentary. It's going to be Sarah Gigante and myself on the Pro Velo Super League because you're off doing 3 peaks.
Yes, no, I will be in Falls Creek. Start praying to the weather gods for me, everyone. But yeah, what a worthy replacement. Sarah Gigante will be there on the ground with you, Matt, commentating the crit. And so, yeah, I'll definitely be watching the coverage though. So really looking forward to tuning in to SBS. It'll be fantastic.
Yeah, so she's going to be with me for both the women's race and the men's race. And what I do know, she's going to be coming with plenty of research having been done. Check your local guides to make sure that you've got the right time for the coverage of round 4 of the Pro Velo Super League on SBS or on SBS On Demand. And Tills, next time I see you, you'll have 3 peaks in your legs already.
Yeah, and we're going to have a couple of great resources on the ground as well. So be sure to follow Pro Velo Super League for the live tracker and the live results, but also make sure that you're following us on the socials as well, because the team have been doing a fantastic job just doing blow by blow of what's been happening in the race. So yeah, I'll be tuning into that where I can.
Great stuff. Thanks for watching, everybody. Until next week, see you later. Bye, Tills.
Thanks, team.